Hello there. Today we're talking about, do fibroids affect hormones? This is important because we're hormonal folks as females. You may have this question and we're going to talk about it today. And so in this video, we will talk about what are fibroids, how are they prevalent in us as females. We'll talk about how fibroids are influenced by our hormones that we typically have in our system anyways, like all the time. We'll talk about hormones being produced by fibroids, and we'll talk about treatment options if you do have fibroids. And on top of that, you know what? If you hang around to the end of this video, I will offer you a free gift. Hang around and I'll be happy to share at the end of this video. Fibroids are non-cancerous growths or tumors. They're masses that grow within the uterine body. They actually develop from cells of the uterus that are normally like your muscles. So when you think of your biceps, that is a muscle beneath your skin. And that muscle has a lot of fibers that come together to create one body of an organ together that moves and allows us to do the things like what I just did, like our movements, right? And so the uterus is no different. It is a muscle, but this muscle has a space on the inside, which is a space where babies are developed. This is where periods come from. And so it's very important. And so your muscles can sometimes separate and cause an abnormal growth leading to fibroids. And fibroids, believe it or not, are pretty hard. So for instance, this is an example for teaching purposes of fibroid. And believe it or not, they're actually white. Once you strip them of the uterine tissue around it, it literally is a white mass as such. The mass might not necessarily be round like this, but oftentimes it is. And so sometimes, like literally, I'll say that you can throw it and you can knock someone out with the fibroid and how hard it is. They start to develop from the uterine muscle, but they abnormally do so and create a tumor. And they love hormones. They have so many receptors within them that responds to the hormones in your system, but may also almost like duplicate the amount of hormones that are available in your system, in your pelvis. Fibroids can be dangerous things for that reason. I want us to really look at the landscape of our hormonal state. Between 9 years old, which is the average age of puberty now, and 51 years old, which is the average age of menopause, we have just about 40 years of reproductive hormones. That means every single month, you have estrogens and progesterone yo-yoing through your system. In the first half of your cycle, your estrogens are high. In the second half of your menstrual cycle, your progesterones are high. And so it's important that your estrogens and your progesterones are being balanced. If for some reason you have a lot of estrogens because, say you're not ovulating, you skipped a month or two, maybe 6 months, that means that the entire time you have a lot of estrogens and no or low progesterone. And so that's an imbalance. And the same can happen if you have normal progesterone, but just way higher estrogens, or more progesterones and not enough estrogens. Those are hormonally imbalanced states. And so what can happen with fibroids is that we know they love estrogens because estrogens will allow them to grow and get bigger. It helps with their development. And so in the first half of your menstrual cycle, fibroids may grow. During pregnancy, when you have a ton of estrogens, fibroids may grow. In any other state, so for instance, if you are obese and you're skipping your cycles, the more estrogens that you have without a period means that estrogens and progesterones were released. If you skip your period, you're only getting estrogens. And so in those moments, fibroids may grow because they love estrogens. On the flip side, if there are progesterones. Progesterones won't necessarily lead to them growing, but may impact their stability. So progesterones help them to remain stable. So in general, neither progesterones or estrogens are helpful when it comes to your hormones. But the question of our video today that we're talking about is whether or not fibroids may produce or affect your hormones. And so the direct answer is that fibroids don't actually produce their own hormones. At least not that research has shown us right now. What we do know is that the receptors that they have within them, so inside of the fibroids, they are easily receptive and sensitive to estrogens and progesterones. We know that they may cause other hormones in your system, like testosterone, to convert into estrogens, which it likes in its favor, because that would lead to growth. And so we know all of these activities may happen within the fibroid itself, but fibroids will not produce their own different, or like a different form of hormones. It will use your hormones to its advantage and help to multiply that so that they'll continue to grow and grow and grow. And so because fibroids love hormones so much, and because fibroids tend to grow in a hormonally imbalanced state, we know that fibroids can be linked with things like PCOS. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that is a hormonal condition. It is formed when our hormones are imbalanced, when we don't have a good negative feedback system in our bodies where we have one hormone go up and the other go down, and then it moves vice versa. Oftentimes, while PCOS and fibroids are completely different, we know that PCOS is a hormonally imbalanced state, and because those hormones are imbalanced, especially the estrogens, which may oftentimes be super high in PCOS, you may also have fibroids and have both conditions at the same time. With PCOS, we know that ovulation isn't necessarily as often as it should. In people with PCOS, you may have 9 or less cycles per year versus having 12. The less menstrual cycles you have, the more estrogens your body is exposed to, and the higher the likelihood that fibroids may develop. We know that in those with PCOS, you may have a high likelihood of having insulin resistance, and insulin resistance may lead to fibroid formation. We know that in those with PCOS, there's a high likelihood that you may be overweight. Not all people with PCOS is overweight, but a majority are. When we have additional excessive fat cells on our body, we know that those fat cells may produce way more estrogens, and those estrogens may lead to fibroid growth. And so while fibroids in and of themselves directly are not producing hormones, we know that they respond to them very well. And whenever our bodies are in any kind of hormonally imbalanced state, the likelihood of them growing and developing just becomes higher and higher and higher. And so it's important that we monitor our hormonal state, that we talk to our OBGYNs and talk about plans and assess how well you are doing. It's important that we try our best to make changes in our lifestyle that will help to keep us hormonally balanced. If you do have fibroids, yes, they can be removed. We can have a myomectomy. We can, if you are done with fertility and having other issues, we may even consider a hysterectomy. There are medications that can be given to help to maintain them or to help to reduce them. We know that there are ways that you can influence your lifestyle to help to reduce the likelihood of hormones becoming imbalanced. We do have more videos that will talk about and does talk about this a lot more deeper. But as I promised in the early part of this video, that if you stayed until the end, I had a free gift for you. Well, we're at that point where I would love to share with you a free copy of my ebook, Hormones Don't Lie, in that we really dive into what hormones are, how to help to become and be more balanced. And I give you so many strategies that you can implement in your daily life to help your hormonal state. And so to get a free copy of that ebook, click the link below this video in the description area and I'll send it right over to you. Because together we can become more balanced and we can be better, we can be empowered. Thank you so much for listening in today. I hope you learned a thing or two. And if you do, share a comment below. I'd love to see it. And of course, share with someone else who may need to know some of this information. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm Dr. Perkins, a board certified OBGYN, and it's my pleasure to speak with you and educate you. Thank you so much.